Hey, I'm Kate from Project Patterns. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to draft this beautiful darted sleeve. Now, the really cool thing about this shoulder detail is that our shoulder comes far away from the body to really give us that lovely, powerful shoulder. But instead of growing our extra width or length onto our bodice, we've grown it onto our sleeve, creating this lovely dart detail here. And it goes all the way around to the back as well. So we still have our armhole in our natural armhole position, but instead we have the extra height and length grown onto our sleeve. Let's take a quick look at how we draft this. For this style, I'm going to add my shoulder pad. Now I've already added in my extra height here and my extra height here on my armholes on my front and back to allow for this shoulder pad. So remember that you have to add in your shoulder pad allowance before you start drafting this. I'm also only going to work with my sleeve pattern because our armhole is going to stay the same as it is now that I've added in for my shoulder pad. Alright, first things first, from our pitch point here, we're going to measure down 10 centimeters on the back and 10 centimeters on the front and mark notches. Now we've already done that. Then what we want to do is decide how big our extension is going to be. I'm going to do mine 4 centimeters. So from my shoulder point here, I'm going to measure down along my center line of my sleeve. I'm going to make a mark 4 centimeters. Then I'm going to draw a parallel line to my sleeve head 4 centimeters in. Then from those notch points, I'm going to square lines, meeting the line that I drew that was parallel. Great, so this is going to be our extension. Next, we want to think about how we're going to slash into this to open it up. We're going to use this as our slash line, our center line. Then we also want to mark 2 other evenly spaced points on our back and our front. They don't have to be perfectly evenly spaced, so I'm just going to do these by eye. Wonderful. Next, we're going to do some cutting and slashing. We're going to cut from here all the way down to our elbow line and then across to our underarm lines. What I've done is I've left little hinges here on my underarm seams that I can use to rotate my pieces from. So I've cut from the edge of my paper to the seam and from there to my seam, literally leaving just a few millimeters there. Now we also want to cut along this line and then up to our shoulder point here. And we don't need all this paper, so I'm going to trim this away. Then I can cut along these lines here. Now again, when I cut up to my sleeve head here, I want my rotation point to be there, so I'm going to leave a couple of millimeters. Great, so the next thing we're going to do is open our sleeve up like this. And then we're going to open up these areas here. Now we need to know how much we want to open this up by. So I'm going to trace another copy of my sleeve block, just the upper section, to help use as a guideline. So here is the upper section of my original sleeve block. I've traced it to my elbow line and then I've stuck on my amended piece or slashed in piece at the elbow line. Now what we want to do is rotate these pieces to the right amount. Remember this point here that we drew a parallel line to? What we're going to do is rotate out from our underarm until this point hits our sleeve head there. Lovely. I'm just going to pin that down in place. And we're going to do the same on the back. So from our original position, rotating it out until our point there that we slashed to hits our sleeve head. Wonderful. So this original sleeve head shape of our block is going to be the sleeve head here. So these little bits here, I'm just going to trim off. make life a little bit neater for us. Then what I want to do is just measure my sleeve head, make sure that I haven't changed any measurements, because this area here that we're going to slash into needs to be the same measurement on this line as this line here. So my back measures 10.5 and my front also measures 10.5. And actually you can see my original little 10 centimeter marks there and there. So when we've opened this up, they've just gone slightly lower than that, which is absolutely okay. So now what that means is when we open up these pieces here, the eventual measurement of this line is going to also need to be 10.5 so that it stitches perfectly onto there. We also want to add a little bit here at the top so that we get a nice squared corner. So what I'm going to do first is stick a little piece of paper on there so that I can see how much I need to add to get that squared corner. So drawing on from my original line there, and then squaring off of that line until I hit the point that I cut to. So we gain almost a centimetre there, 9 millimetres. Great, so that's how much we gain there. Then all the remaining measurement that we need to add in, we can add into these 3 slash points. So let's measure what our original curve here was, and then we can figure out how much we need to add in. So I've measured all 3 sections. The first one is 2 centimetres plus 1.9 for the second, and then the third one is 2.5 including the extra bit that I've added. So that gives me a total of 6.4. Now, what's the difference between 10.5 and 6.4? Well, it's 4.1. That means that that extra 4.1 centimetres that we need to add in, we're going to split equally between these 3 slash points. So 4.1 divided by 3 is 1.36. We'll round that to 1.4. So in each section here, we're going to slash in and open it by 1.4. Lovely. So then we just want to true our lines and redraw those seams. So we get something like this. Great, then we're just going to repeat this process on the back. Beautiful, so that's our rough draft done. Now what I want to do is trace this and make a fresh copy, because of course we can't really work with this. We've got all these bits of paper flapping about. I don't want to trace over any pins, so I'm just going to stick this down. Beautiful, then let's grab some fresh paper and trace it out. So once I've traced my pattern, this is what it looks like. You can see I've trued my points here at my elbow where I slashed into, and I've just made sure that my curves are nice and smooth. And actually here I can see I'm gonna just make that a little bit nicer there as well. Just smooth that out ever so slightly. A little bit nicer there. Okay, so you might be wondering, how do we add seam allowance to this area, because it gets a little bit tricky. So I'll quickly show you how we do that and explain where we need to put drill holes so that we can stitch this together. I'm going to put 1 centimeter here because this edge stitches to this edge. So centimeter, centimeter. And then here on this seam and this seam, I'm also going to put 1 centimeter. And on my sleeve head, I'm going to put 1 centimeter too. And on our armholes, also going to pop 1 centimeter on here. Great, so centimeter all round. Now, like I said, this area stitches to this area, and this line here stitches to this line here. So we create a dot here. And on the back, this line here stitches to this line here. Now when we stitch this up, we first stitch these ones together and then we stitch this in one go. But you need to know where to stitch to here. Now obviously we're going to put drill holes here on our actual stitch points, one there and one there. And then we also need to put matching drill holes here and here because it's not going to be clear where our stitch line goes. So I'm going to measure up 1.5 centimeters, or 2 centimeters rather, pop a drill hole there, and then measure along 2 centimeters here, drill hole there, because these lines, or points rather, are going to match. Then we'll stitch this one to this one. On the back, I'm going to do the same, but it's a little bit longer here at the back, so I'm going to put 2.5 here and 2.5 here. So then we have these 2 drill holes matching and these 2 drill holes matching, and then all of this goes all the way here, and then all of this goes all the way here. Now of course we need to add some seam allowance to the rest of the sleeve. We don't need to do anything to our armhole, but we do need to add our other notch up here. So going back to my body pieces and my armholes, I've already measured the distance between my notches. So for my front piece, from my balance point down here up to my next notch was 9.5 centimeters. So on my front sleeve head, I'm just going to measure from that notch 9.5 centimeters and mark on that next matching notch. And then on my back piece, I already measured from my second balance point here to the next notch, which is 8.9. So measuring from that balance point there, all the way up along my sleeve head there, and making a notch at 8.9. Then I know that all my notches here match all of my notches here. And that's all of our drafting done for this. So let's twirl this up and see what it looks like. So once we've twirled it up, this is what it looks like. Remember, I've just done the shoulder section so we can concentrate on this detail. We've got that lovely, powerful shoulder silhouette, and we've still got our armhole in the natural position. Then we've got our beautiful dart detail through here. Now, one thing to note about this is that your seam allowance for your dart needs to go into your body. So when you stitch this in, your seam allowance, instead of coming out this way, should go in. That's what gives us that nice crisp edge through there. Inside here, I've got my shoulder pad, and then I've also got a sleeve roll through here. I've also got a placement fuse along this section of my sleeve. And if I was going to make this in a full jacket or coat, I would either block fuse my front or do placement fuses around my shoulder, neck and armhole area. And the same thing for the back, fuse this entire area here. Just gives it a bit of stability and a bit of support. And I'll rotate that around slowly so that you guys can get a nice clear look. This really is such a beautiful silhouette, and it's such a simple, elegant design. Let me know if you decide to give this sleeve draft a go. Leave a comment below or message me or tag me on Instagram. I'm at Project Patterns. In the meantime, you can find more lessons and courses and all kinds of content over on my website, www.projectpatterns.co.uk. I will see you soon for another tutorial. Thanks for watching. Bye!